Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of The Lovable Madman. After having been delayed for more than a year, Black Widow has finally dropped. And today, we're going to break the movie down and take a closer look at it. And we're going to start with the plot. Now, the plot is unfortunately unfocused and nonsensical. The film starts with a flashback to 1995 Ohio and a young Natasha living with her fake spy family, fake sister Yelena, and fake parents Alexei and Melina. Now, these four are supposed to provide a family dynamic and be the emotional core of the movie. Unfortunately, we don't really see anything to support that. They don't spend any time together outside of the two girls playing outside. Alexei shows up and they immediately need to flee, and after the ensuing car chase, when they make their escape, they just go their separate ways and don't speak to each other again for 20 years. The only other scene with all four characters comes right at the beginning of the climax. And even then, we aren't given any reason to care about these people as a family dynamic. Yeah, Yelena looked back on that time fondly because she was 6 when they had to flee. Alexei and Melina bashed that time as being a waste of 3 years of their lives because that mission was so boring. I honestly don't remember Natasha saying anything at all about it. The family dynamic is forced and unnatural, and the movie commits the cinematic sin of telling us about it instead of showing it to us. Now, Natasha just kind of sitting there quietly while other people talk is unfortunately something that happens throughout the movie. Every time there's more than 3 characters on screen, she just fades to the background. She doesn't drive the plot or the movie. She just goes where everyone else tells her to. She goes to a trailer because someone else set it up for her. She goes to Budapest after Yelena sends her a message. She goes to the prison where Alexei's being held because Yelena says he's there. And she goes to Melina's farm because Alexei says that's where she is. If Scarlett Johansson hadn't been in several other MCU movies before this, I honestly would have thought Yelena was the main character. She puts the plot in motion and she drives the action and is active in knowing where they need to go. She starts it by stealing the gas and sending it to Natasha. She knows where the prison Alexei is being held and is the one who goes and breaks him out. At the end of the movie, she's the one that frees the other widows from their mind control and kills Dreykov. The movie's villains are the worst in the MCU, and they could have just been anyone. Dreykov doesn't make you feel any way about him. He doesn't do anything. He isn't sinister or scary. He isn't fun or likable. He just dies. And that could have been forgivable had they done anything with Taskmaster. She ends up being Dreykov's daughter, who Natasha thought died in her bombing attempt. She has the ability to mimic any action she sees, and they don't do anything with that. She ends up being brainwashed and mind controlled by her father, and could have just been one of the nameless widows. The movie also isn't interested in answering any of the questions its plot brings up. How did Alexei become a super soldier? Why would Russia send its most high-profile hero on an undercover mission for 3 years? How did Yelena know about Natasha's Budapest safe house? Why do the two of them fight when they first meet each other there? How did Dreykov survive an exploding building without a scratch when his daughter was horribly disfigured? The movie just doesn't know these answers. Moving on to the characters. Now, the film has a smaller cast of characters than most other Marvel movies, and theoretically that should have worked in the movie's favor. Unfortunately, the script just had no idea what it wanted to do with any of them. The one exception is Yelena. She's the only character with any kind of depth or justification to be there by the plot. Florence Pugh steals every scene she's in, and I'm genuinely excited to see her in Hawkeye. The film's one success is working as her origin story. Every other character, including Natasha, could have been cut entirely or replaced, and the movie wouldn't be any different. Natasha Romanoff is the reason we came to watch this movie. And the way she's handled shows why it took them 10 years to get this movie made. They had no idea how to center a story around her. She isn't an active protagonist. She doesn't choose to go from place to place. She just follows everyone else. And worse still, she fades into the background of her own movie. Next is Alexei, the Red Guardian, Russia's answer to Captain America. And he's just there to be comic relief. Which he succeeds at. He's a very funny character. But there wasn't a reason to have him be a super soldier. He just knocks over a large door and loses his one fight in seconds. Melina, turns out, had some very useful stuff for the final battle just laying around her house. That's kind of it. There's nothing about her skill set or her character that sets her apart from anyone else. Now, there are a lot of people who think that the villains in the Marvel movies just aren't really that great. And for the most part, I actually disagree. I think most of them have been cast very well, and they add an entertaining aspect to the movies. Unfortunately, that is not the case here. Thunderbolt Ross shows up, and he's just at the very beginning and very end of the movie, and all he does is not catch Black Widow. The main villain of the movie is Dreykov, and he is just outright bad. The character has absolutely nothing going for him, and it doesn't help that he's only in a couple of scenes. Darren Cross from the original Ant-Man isn't the most complex villain ever, but Corey Stoll played him as a complete psychopath, which at least made the character fun to watch. There is nothing like that for Dreykov. And finally, we have Taskmaster, who I think the costume actually looks pretty good. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the positive aspects of the character end. She has the ability to mimic any action that she sees, but her fight scenes end as soon as they start. So we don't get to explore that bit of her. Taskmaster is the perfect summation of this movie. Flashy on the outside, but beneath is just nothing more than wasted potential. The action. The movie has a couple of big action set pieces to it, and they're a lot of fun and are very entertaining until they start to drag on and eventually wear out their welcome. The hand-to-hand combat scenes actually have the exact opposite problem. You have a cast of characters that specialize in martial arts, yet most of the fight scenes are over in just a few seconds. The only one that isn't is the one that doesn't make any sense. The special effects and the visuals. The effects are actually pretty consistently good throughout the movie. I didn't notice anything in either the CGI or the practical effects that I thought was bad or that pulled me out of the experience of the movie, although none of it is really special or blew me away. And the same thing goes for the lighting and the cinematography. None of it is bad, but none of it will blow you away either. The music. The score blends in nicely with what's happening on screen, although I didn't find it to be anything really too special. That isn't a knock against the movie or anything, only about half a dozen or so MCU themes have actually stuck with me. There is, however, a hilariously bad cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit during the opening credits. It doesn't matter how slow and melodramatic you play it, there's only so much you can do with a song that's about a deodorant. I know it sounds like I spent most of the last few minutes just bashing this movie, but it isn't all bad. The action is fun and entertaining, even if I feel it doesn't last the right amount of time. Florence Pugh nearly single-handedly saves the movie on her own. David Harbour is perfectly cast as the comic relief. I just wish he had been someone else. Perhaps they'll pass the mantle of Red Guardian on to someone else, and we can see that character's potential. Natasha's confrontation with Dreykov at the end of the movie is great, and it finally gives her a chance to shine. Everything Black Widow does well, other movies have done better. Other Marvel movies have done better. You want a movie about a cold-hearted assassin learning to open up and build a family for herself? What about a superhero movie that features a jailbreak? Or a battle in the sky amongst falling debris? What about a Cold War era style spy thriller? We waited for this movie, and it shows that Black Widow was only ever meant to be a supporting character, or that Marvel truly had no idea what to do with her. Marvel has so far managed to avoid making a really awful movie, and this movie isn't awful. There's nothing in it that's outright atrocious, and it does have its good parts. It does have good things about it, but the plot holes prevent any kind of satisfying narrative. Before this movie, my least favorite MCU movie is Thor: The Dark World. As of now, it's Black Widow. The first draft for this movie was written in 11 days. And I genuinely need to ask if they bothered to write anything else beyond that. There is a foundation of a good movie in here, and with some serious rewrites, we could have gotten the movie that we waited for and that Natasha deserved. As it is, this movie simply is not it. If you enjoyed my analysis, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe. Anyway, what'd you think of the movie? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What things from my analysis would you like to talk about, good or bad? Leave any thoughts on the movie in the comments below. Today's trivia: Scarlett Johansson's husband, Colin Jost, required a spoiler warning when reading lines with her. Thank you for watching, and remember, we're all mad here. Really, Dad? Really, Jennifer?